Hello, everybody. How are you today? I am recording. Just double checking actually that I am recording. It's okay saying it and then not realizing if you've actually done it or not. So I trying something a little bit new today, which is already not going well for me, but it will be fine. The new thing that I'm trying, all I've done is I've set up my iPad at the side of me, and I'm using that as a second screen to what's the phrase I'm after, to monitor my recording, just so that it's on a separate screen, to be honest. Almost there. So I'm going to put that over there. Whoops. Like so. I mean, I should have done all this before I started this recording, but, you know, I like to give you That's a Freebie Plus members a little bit more than everybody else where possible. So that's why you always get a bit of a post-show. You get to listen to me setting stuff up. It's really exciting, I know. I am currently live on YouTube and Twitch. I'm actually just going to check that they are going. I'm still not at the point yet where I've come up with a way of sending out a notification to let you know when I'm going live, because that would require me to record at the same time every single week, and I've not been able to get there yet. So I'm looking into ways of sticking on the website on fluxo.media that I'm about to go live, or with a rough idea of when I'm going to go live. I generally would record on a Monday. I'm saying that on a Wednesday, currently recording. So, you know, not always true to my word there, clearly. Yes, it does look like I am live. Into ways of sticking on the website. Perfect, I am live on the YouTubes. Let me check Twitch. I mean, it says I am. I just wanted to double check, but, you know, because I've never actually seen it show up.
Maybe it's random. Yeah.
So free.
You take the other car and drive it up.
B. Yeah, I don't show up on Twitch anywhere, but that doesn't really mean anything, to be honest. I have no idea how to use Twitch. Maybe I need to search my actual username. If I don't find it straight away, I'm not going to bother, because I don't care that much. Oh, no, there it is. That's a freebie. Apparently, I've got one viewer, but I suspect that's me. That's a freebie. Apparently, I've got one viewer, but I suspect that's me. That's a freebie. Apparently, I've got one viewer, but I suspect that's me. Feel free, if it's not me, feel free to say hi. I have got chat set up. If it's not me, feel free to say hi. If you ask me a question in the chat, I will indeed answer it live. And I think I'm about ready to start, you know. How are we all this week, anyway? I feel like it's been a while. I feel like it's been like an age. The last two episodes that I released, I recorded like very close together. So for me, it's been about 2.5 weeks since I last spoke to you, which is just weird. It's unusual. It's, you know, usually I try and record an episode every week and then release it every 2 weeks. But obviously, because I broke my wrist, that didn't happen. I went through a bit of a period where I just couldn't do it. So I when I was able to record, I got 2 out while I could, because I wasn't sure how things would go. Well, I'll obviously update that in the main show. But yeah, it just feels like it's been an age. I feel like I'm new to it. I can't remember what to do. Luckily, I've gone through my document. I've tried to make sure that there's something in every section, which there is. I've got actually quite a packed show this week by the look of things. So that should be nice. Let's have a drink. There is something I didn't put in, I've just realised. I forgot the name. I can't go look look it up. No, I can go look it up now, but I can't be bothered. Doesn't matter. I'll still answer the question. I keep forgetting to write in the Dear Diggy questions every week. And then I remember the question because I've obviously thought about what answer I'm going to give. But then I forget who actually sent it in. And I'm pretty sure this week's was sent in by a non-anonymous person. I cannot remember who it was. And I've deleted the bloody email now. Sorry, I'm annoyed at myself for that. I will apologise in the show, obviously. Right. What did I do? Testing. No, it sounded all right. I thought I'd done the thing where I pressed the robot voice button again. Remember when I did that? That was stupid. That's a whole episode that never got released. A lesson there. Right. Just have one more drink and then we're ready to start. Sorry, I have waffled a lot today because I think I'm nervous about getting started. So, God, 6 minutes of just listening to me talk crap. Well, you've got another 40 minutes or so of it to come. Oh, something went crazy then. While researching... I'm going to start that again because I've just realised I had a spelling mistake and I didn't... God, I'm annoyed at myself already. While researching jokes, I found a whole bunch on vampires. Sadly, I discovered that the puns to be pretty poor. They just lack the bite that they used to have. Oh dear. Yep, what a way to open the show. What a way to open the show. I just said look at the show then. So this week on the show, I'm going to take a look at the disastrous and hilarious Battle of Palmdale. I've got a report on the hearing study I've joined, even more broken wrist updates, and you will be pleased to know that there is indeed a tram story this week. Will the Battle of Palmdale actually be hilarious? Did I actually join a hearing study? And did I even get on a tram this week? For answers to questions such as these, keep listening to That's a Freebie. Theme tune. Here's a story that sounds like something straight out of a slapstick war movie. In August 1956, the United States Air Force forced off... Let's start again. Here's a story that sounds like something straight out of a slapstick war movie. In August 1956, the United States Air Force faced off against a runway drone over Southern California. Armed with 208 rockets, two F-89D Scorpions spent the afternoon trying and failing to bring down a bright red Grumman F-6F-5K Hellcat drone. By the end of the day, the drone was the only thing that didn't take damage. Oof. The Navy had been using drones to test air-to-air missiles, including the AIM-7 Sparrow, when one of them decided it had other plans. Shortly after takeoff, the drone stopped responding to commands and began drifting ominously toward Los Angeles. With no way to stop it, the Navy called in the Air Force from nearby Oxnard Air Force Base, setting the stage for one of the most embarrassing battles in Air Force history. Two F-89D Scorpions piloted by First Lieutenant Hans Einstein. No relation, but the irony is noted. The First Lieutenant, Richard Hurleyman, scrambled to intercept the wayward drone. Their Scorpions were equipped with the latest in-fire control systems, except, as it turned out, that system didn't work. After several failed attempts to launch rockets in automatic mode, the pilots had to switch to manual. Here's the catch, though. The gun sights had been removed to make room for the fancy new fire control system, so they were essentially trying to aim 114 rockets using the power of positive thinking. I imagine that didn't go well. As the drone meandered over Castaic... How do you pronounce that? As the drone meandered over Castaic and Santa Paula, the Scorpions began launching rockets in waves. Out of 208 rockets fired, not one hit the drone. Some rockets bounced off the drone's fuselage without exploding, probably out of sheer pity, to be truthful. Instead, the rockets did what rockets do best. They hit everything else. Brush fires broke out across 1,000 acres of Brush fires broke out across 1,000 acres. Oil tanks caught fire, and chunks of shrapnel tore through houses and cars in Palmdale. One rocket shredded a passing car's tyre. Another blew up a utility truck. And 2 men had just left to sit under a tree. I'm going to read that entire thing again. Instead, the rockets did what rockets do best. They hit everything else. Brush fires broke out across 1,000 acres. Oil tanks caught fire, and chunks of shrapnel tore through houses and cars in Palmdale. One rocket shredded a passing car's tyre. Another blew up a utility truck, and 2 men had just left to sit under a tree. Why do I keep saying "and 2 men"? Another blew up a utility truck that 2 men had just left to sit under a tree. After an afternoon of chaos, the drone finally ran out of fuel and spiraled down to crash in the desert. It managed to take out some power lines, but otherwise it did less damage than the Air Force's rockets. In the end, the battle left behind scorched earth, damaged homes, and a lot of unanswered questions. The good news? No one was hurt. The bad news? The Air Force will probably never live it down. The Battle of Palmdale was a textbook example of how not to shoot down a drone. It also serves as a reminder that sometimes the only winning move is to let the drone run out of gas. So there we have the Battle of Palmdale. Absolutely ridiculous situation. Remember, if you would like to send topics in for Podtails, all you need to do is go to fluxo.media, that's fluxo.media, and you too can submit a topic. Why am I screen sharing? Oh, yeah, that's fine. Let's have our 2 weekly catch up then, shall we? Last time we spoke, I was awaiting a hospital appointment to have my wrist looked at again. If you recall, I broke my wrist. I'm not going to go back through the whole story again. If you're a new listener and you want to know, go back a couple of episodes, you'll hear all about it. So I was waiting this appointment to have the wound checked out and have a splint installed so that I could get on with finally healing. And I got there. They did the wound check, so they cut off the cast that I had on, or the half cast that I had on. I had sort of a cast that covered the bottom half of my arm, but not the top half of my arm. They cut that off. My arm immediately just felt like a lump of like just flesh, meat, and bone attached to my body, which I suppose is what it is. But it felt very much like that. I couldn't lift it. I couldn't do anything with it. It felt like it had not been used in 3 weeks, which was the case. Funnily enough, they then started taking the plaster off that was on there. It was like a big like dressing that was on there. It was clear that it had been bleeding quite a lot, which they were surprised at. It wasn't supposed to have been able to bleed the way it did. But it did, so there's a lot of dried up blood in there. Fortunately, no infection or anything. Everything was great. They cleaned it up. It was extremely painful to the touch. It was all yellow, black, and just completely bruised around the scar, which is expected because I'd had quite major surgery on it. So that wasn't an issue there. It just looked really bad, very swollen still. So they cleaned it all up. They needed to cut the knot off my stitches. That probably hurt just as much as breaking my arm in the first place. They had to pull the knot upwards as they did it and then snipped it off. And then the rest of the stitches just dissolve. The way they've stitched it up, it's stitched from the inside, so it should be a fairly clean scar when it's all done. It's a bit jaggedy, I've noticed, but that could just be the way my skin is, to be truthful. The way it's pulled when they've pulled the the stitches through. So yeah, they did all that, and then the next step was the splint. So they got the splint out of the packaging, built it all up, told me all about it, showed me how to put it on, take it off, like they demonstrated it. And then as they were going to put it on, the surgeon came walking over who'd done the operation to do his checks. And he said, no, don't put that on. And so they didn't. And obviously he needed to check my arm. I think they were just getting a bit ahead of themselves. They probably didn't know when he was due, that kind of thing, but he just happened to arrive at that point. So he had a look at it, and he was moving it about a lot. Like, bearing in mind, I'd only had the surgery a week earlier. And so it's obviously still broken. I was like, that really hurt. Like I wouldn't say I was screaming, but it was extremely painful. And then he starts telling me about all the different exercises I need to start doing with it. I'm like, but surely I can't move it yet. It's broken. And he's like, no, you need to start moving it. And I'm like, what? And you know where you feel like somebody's misunderstood something somewhere. So I said, I only had surgery last week. And he went, yeah, I know. I'm like, oh, but it's broken still. Like, you told me it'd be 6 to 8 weeks till it'd like, even start healing. And he said, yeah, but it's fine. The plate will hold everything in place. You just need to start moving your arm now. And obviously this terrified me. Like, it still looked massively out of shape. That was because of the swelling, obviously. But he started going through. So, like, the exercises I have to do, I have to put my arm on a table and push my hand down as far as it'll go. Obviously, I have to stop if it feels like it's snapping something. But push it down as far as it'll go. Then push it back as far as it'll go. Twist it. Just every movement you can think of. This physio actually covers 3 times a day. So I was a bit dubious. So I said, well, okay, that's fine. And then so I put my arm out to get the splint put on, and he said, no, you can't have that. And that was when I got really worried. I was like, what do you mean I can't have the splint? Like, what do I need? How do I stop it from moving or getting banged or anything like that? He's like, well, you just have to be careful with it. So I was like, well, I got here on a tram. I've got to get on the tram. Like, you can't walk on a tram without someone banging into you. He's like, well, you just have to be careful. I'm like, okay. But you said, like it says in the notes, that I'll be getting the splint to protect it from unneeded movements. And he's like, nope, I've decided that you're not having it because you need to get it moving. The quicker you get it moving, the better it'll be. So yeah, I was a little bit perturbed by that. I really thought that he's misunderstood something here, and I was terrified. I'm not gonna lie. So he left because he had to go and see his next patient. The nurse said to me, it's called a Futuro splint. You can get them on Amazon if you end up needing one. Like, because she looked very confused as well that I wasn't being given this splint. Which made me even more worried, to be honest. I was convinced that he's just completely misunderstood something. But you know what? He's the surgeon. I'm not. I took his word for it. I did. I had a sling with me because I needed it in a sling before that point. So I did actually put the sling back on to get home because I had the kids with me as well. It wasn't the easiest thing to hold my arm as I was walking because I couldn't not hold my arm because the weight of my hand was pulling on the bone on the plate and it was hurting. So I had to hold my hand in place. I couldn't dangle it down the side of my body. Just like like you would normally, because it was painful. The weight of my hand was causing it to hurt, and it was a shooting pain that went right up my up my arm and all the way through my body. And that was the thing that I was trying to get across to the surgeon. But hey, he knows best, right? So I wore the sling home and it was fine. When I got home, I took the sling off and just tried to use it as best I could. It was painful. My wife came home that night and I explained what was happening, and she was like, that doesn't sound right. I was like, yeah, I know it doesn't sound right. And like, I couldn't even, I don't even know how to describe it. I couldn't even touch the area where it was without like extreme pain because the skin was all raw and everything. So I went to bed that night. I was worried about rolling over on it. So I was propping it up on cushions and things like that, which is what I've been doing anyway, because they do keep telling me to still keep it raised so that the swelling goes down. And you know what? After a couple of days, I've got to admit, it was getting a lot better. Doing the exercises, he was absolutely correct. So it just goes to show, sometimes it is good to listen to your doctor. Well, probably all the time it is good to listen to your doctor, is the truth there, right? So it's now been, oh man, I can't even remember when I went in. It was like 2 to 3 weeks ago. I'm completely splintless, castless. The wound is healing quite well. I've got quite limited movement in my wrist, but I can move it. I can use it. I just can't pick anything up that's heavy. I've been instructed not to pick anything up more than 4 pounds because that's the weight limit of the what's it called, the plate that's in there. So the plate can't take any more weight than that. So, and I do find if I try and lift anything heavier than like a cup of tea, for example, that's when I start to feel a bit of pain then, and I struggle to keep hold of it. So I've just got to take it a little bit easy there. That's something that could go on for quite a while now. I've got a checkup coming up next month. Actually, what date is it? It's currently the 30th. So yes, next month, technically. So I'll give you an update when I've had that. Probably this is going to be the last update you get on Wristgate for a while now, because unless something major happens. Well, other than my next story, I might as well move on to my next story now, actually. So, of all the things that could happen, I was on the tram. This is my tram story. I was on the tram, as always. I was going into work because I am back at work now. It was Sunday, so Sunday was the Manchester Marathon. Now, you've probably heard me complain before on this very podcast that I absolutely hate the runners at Manchester Marathon time. Now, it's not that I don't like runners. I'm fine with runners. I would love to actually be one of them, but I am not in that kind of shape. I'd love to be able to say, yeah, I can run a marathon, which is hard to say. Can't even say it, let alone run it. Let alone run it, I said then. I turned into Scooby-Doo. But the problem with the marathon is that they don't seem to think about everybody else. Now, I understand that, they're focused on the job, they're focused on what they're going to do. But if they're so focused on what they're going to do, why is it that every single one of them seems to want to get on the tram 20 minutes before the race is due to start with their entire family, with a pram and massive signs on a day when people are trying to get into work? There's loads of signs, there's loads of announcements, they get loads of emails from the organisers saying that you need to travel early. Now, again, I know a lot of them do travel early, but there's so many that don't. Now, I had to be in work for 11 o'clock on Sunday. I ended up leaving at 8 a.m, right? So I left at 8 a.m, and sure enough, runners everywhere. There were 3 lots of trams. 3 trams came that were full of people before I could get on one. At that point, I got shoved out of the way because they were all trying to flood on before me. And there were people complaining that they couldn't get the prams on. These are people with the runners. Like, why do they need to travel together in the first place? I don't know. Because they're both going to... The families all got off at a different stop to what the runners get off. It's like, you didn't even need to be together. Just think about other people. I get it. They all need to get there. But travel earlier so you can spread out the travel. And just think about all the people that have got to get to work that have no choice but to get on there, and that can't necessarily go too early or too late. That it's just not physically feasible. Absolute nightmare. Yeah. I've complained about the runners in the past. I'm not going to do it too much again, even though I just completely did. However, I'm on this tram, right? It's pretty busy, like really busy. There's a bunch of lads who, they were just dicks, right? And they decided that, they were just going to goof around. On this really busy tram, they were bumping into other people. They were swearing. They were just generally annoying everybody, to be honest. They probably had a few drinks by the look of them. Not 100% on that, but they seemed like they had, but who knows. One of them decided that he was going to do a funny run. He said, I'm going to run like this, and I don't know, obviously I don't know how to describe it. He was sort of kicking his legs in the air, and as he did, guess what he did? Booted me right in my broken wrist. Oh, God, did it hurt. I yelped, and he he says to his mates, I hardly even touched him. And it's true, he didn't, he didn't, it wasn't a massive whack. It was contact. Any other part of my body, any other day that wasn't broken wrist day, I would have just moved my arm and looked at him and he'd have gone, sorry, mate. But no, oh man, the pain. It shot right up my arm. I looked at him and he looked at his mates and went, I hardly hit him. So I pulled my sleeve up and showed him the scar and I was like, I've just had wrist surgery. It's not that you hardly hit me, it's that you hit me in a broken wrist. I said it a little bit more forceful with a lot more words that I'm not going to repeat on here than that. And he just sort of sunk away into the crowd and his mates did as well. I was like, idiot. So yeah, that's my tram story. Got an email the other day asking me if I would like to participate in a study. Yeah, it turns out that they have been looking across the internet at posts people have made on Reddit and all different places, like listening to podcasts and whatnot, and they've actually found a list of the 10 most intelligent people in the world, and I'm on that list. No, I'm joking. That's not what it was at all. Can you imagine? No, it was when I got my current set of hearing aids, the company that make them, Phonak, they partner with another company to do studies for like beta products and things like that. So testing new features, testing new ideas of things that they could stick into hearing aids and whatnot. And I signed up to say, yes, I'd be willing to participate in these studies because you get paid for them. I had no idea how much you get paid, I just said, yes, I'll do it. I'd happily get paid to do some market research. I'm cool with that. And so I received my first email and I was like, oh, I was very excited. It said, it'll be a 15-minute Zoom call that will be a group of people and you get paid 22 quid for it. 22 quid is not a great deal of money, but for 15 minutes work, I'll happily do that. If the time that they were proposing was a perfect time for me, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, yeah, brilliant. I'll happily do that. So I decided to read all the stuff about it just to make sure I wasn't getting myself involved in something that I didn't want to get involved in. I read all the FAQs. So it was all about, setting up your environment. What kind of questions might you be asked? It all depends on the study, blah, blah, blah. I read through the NDA. Did nothing odd in the NDA. It was just like, if we'll talk about any new features, don't talk about them publicly, all that kind of stuff. I never signed an NDA because I hadn't actually signed up for it at this point. The whole thing took me about 40 minutes to read through. So I was a bit like, that's funny. You get 15 minutes, you get 22 quid for 15 minutes of a call, but you don't get paid for the actual homework that you need to do at first. Now, bear in mind, I suppose you didn't have to read all this documentation that I read, but be silly to not sign up for a study that you haven't at least read the documentation for once, right? So anyway, fine. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm still happy to go ahead with it. I'm more interested to see what might be coming in the future than anything else. That was the whole point of it, really. I'm very nosy like that. I like to test out beta apps and things like that, just so that I can see what's coming, see if there's any way I can influence what it's going to look like. So I clicked the button in the email that says, yes, I'm okay with this, and immediately got a page that said, well, sorry, you don't fit the criteria for this test. So I did like 40 minutes work for free. Couldn't believe it. Yep. So yeah, I tried again. Yep. Completely just don't fit the criteria for the test. So, at least I know now in the future that if I do get another one of these emails, actually check that I could do it first. It didn't say why I didn't fit the criteria. It just said you don't fit the criteria. Urgh. How long have I been going? 29 minutes. Minus your 6. Yeah, okay. And we're not done yet. We're fine. I am looking for advice. I said far then. I am looking for advice from all of the freebies out there. Recently, Toby mentioned that we used to a few years ago, around pandemic time actually, and just afterwards, we had our own little YouTube channel. I'll leave a link to it actually in the show notes. It was called The Family Nook. It was actually linked to a business that we had, where we were selling like games and things online. I closed it down a while ago now. It's not something that I wanted to pursue any further. At one point, actually, there's an interesting story there, but I'll save it for another time. Yeah, it was actually. You know what? I will talk about that story in today's plus feed, because it's an interesting story, but it's not something that's necessarily interesting for everybody. So yeah, I'll talk about it in the plus feed. But essentially, we had this YouTube channel. Like I say, I'll leave a link to it, where we built little tiny robots. Like we bought kits. Like there was a little bee that would vibrate and walk along the table. That's the first one we did actually. Ironically, the show is now called That's a Freebie. That's not the reason why. We built one that its eyes lit up and things like that, and they're all on the YouTube channel. But he mentioned that he really enjoyed doing them. So I said, well, we could do some more. We could look up, we could get some kits and things like that. And in doing so, I remembered that there is such a thing called an Arduino. Now, if you don't know what an Arduino is, it's basically a little circuit board that you can use to control different pieces of hardware. It's a bit like a Raspberry Pi, except a Raspberry Pi is more it's more software based. You can use it to control. It's essentially a Raspberry Pi is essentially a little computer that runs Linux. An Arduino is a controller, so you could build, like, let's say, a robotic arm, and you can use the Arduino to control the robotic arm. You can give it instructions and say, in this situation, do this, and so on and so forth. It requires a little bit of programming to do it. And I thought it might be a good idea for him. I was just wondering if there's any of you out there that have taken on any of these projects, that you could give me some advice on where to start. I've only started looking at it today myself, so I found a few starter kits and things like that, but I don't want to just jump in and get the wrong thing. So if any of you have tried any of these, feel free to head over to fluxo.media and hit me up, let me know. I'd love to know what projects I could do with Toby. I'll obviously stick them up on the YouTube channel, because I think that's what he actually really enjoys about it. He said he only wants to do it if we can make more videos of it, so we'll probably revive that long dormant YouTube channel, and I'll just link it in with the stuff that's on Fluxo Media. So yeah, if you've tried any of it, please give me a shout. I'd love to know your experiences. Final catch-up story for this week is more of a precursor to something that we're probably going to hear about next week. I've got to the point where it's been a couple of years, so I need new glasses. I tend to need new glasses every couple of years. Now, last time I went for my eyes checked, a couple of years ago, funnily enough, I was told that I should probably get varifocals, because I was struggling to see up close stuff. Well, small print is probably more accurate. And I didn't, because I was terrified of getting varifocals. I read all about how they can be really hard to get used to, and how you have to get used to putting your head in different places to be able to read different distances and all that kind of stuff. However, I have, over the last year or so, I have noticed that I am really struggling with smaller text, like, like instructions on things like food packets and things like that. I can't read it, even with my glasses on. I have to take a photo of it and stretch it. And it's not that it's blurry or anything like that. It is literally just too small. I can't make out what the letters are, and I've noticed it in a lot more things recently, and I don't want to start making my text bigger on my phone and things like that. I do not want to get to that point. Fortunately, it's not been too bad on things like that. It is more like things in the physical world where there's a lot of text printed. So I finally gave in, and I've ordered myself a pair of varifocal glasses, and they are due to arrive today. They're due anytime after 12 o'clock, between 12 and 3 it says. So I should have an update for you by next week on what they're like. But so I've ordered a pair of glasses that got red frames. I like coloured frames. I also like transition lenses. They've just come out with um, a new series of transition lenses. They're called Transitions S, or Generation S, I think they're called. Apparently the S stands for speed, which I'm looking forward to. So one of the complaints I've always had with transition lenses is they take longer than you would expect to go back to clear. So like if you walk into a shop, for example, like if I walk into the supermarket, I could have done all my shopping by the time they've gone back to clear. And it's really hard to walk around, so I have to then put the glasses on the top of my head, which, in a situation where I'm going to be reading the packets for the food that I'm buying and then needing very focused to be able to read that, I can't be waiting for that to happen. But these Generation S, apparently, they go all the way back to clear within 2 minutes. I've watched a lot of videos on them. I'm comparing them to the ones I've got. I've got Generation 8 at the moment. And these are supposed to take about, from what I read, about like 5 to 6 minutes to go back. But honestly, they take about 10 to 15 minutes to get clear. And I've been watching loads of comparison videos with them, and these S seem like they're very, very quick. So I can't wait for that. That is something I'll report on next week. And I got them, they come now in a new, like a ruby red colour. So when they go dark, they go like a really nice ruby red. So very much looking forward to getting my new glasses. Hopefully they arrive today. I've had the Royal Mail thing saying that they're on the way, so I guess we will see. When the podcast is over, do you ever sit there thinking, oh, I wish there was more? I wish I could listen to more of That's a Freebie, because Diggy makes such amazing points and he's so funny, and I just wish there was more of him in my life. Well, guess what? You can. You can join That's a Freebie Plus. Head over to fluxo.media and you can find a link there to get to my Patreon, which is £4 a month. And you get an additional section at the end of the show. In today's show, we're going to play a game, which we've been playing for a few weeks, where I describe a movie plot badly, and we see what we can. We see if you can guess the name of the movie. I've got a couple of other topics in there as well. So yeah, you should join. You should join. There's also a Discord room, so you can chat to other members. And there is a pre-show as well. Now, the pre-show is more just me setting everything up. Every now and then, though, I give you a little bit of a preview as to why I'm doing things in the show and how I'm doing things in the show, which some people are interested in. So, yeah, head over to fluxo.media, where you can join That's a Freebie Plus. Speaking of the pre-show, I did mention in the pre-show that I've made a little tiny mistake. So I've got a Dear Diggy topic, or a Dear Diggy question this week. And it was sent in by somebody, and I recall that it wasn't an anonymous question. But I seem to have mislaid, deleted the email with the person's name on who asked the question. So I'm really, really sorry. I did see it, whoever it was. Thank you for sending the question in. Don't let this discourage you from sending others in. It's just I started writing this document like 2.5 weeks ago, and I've cleaned out my inbox since then. So this week's Dear Diggy question was, what car do you drive? Now, also, a little bit stalkerish. Do you plan on following me? It'll be really difficult, though, because I drive a silver Toyota Auris. I'm not going to tell you the registration. And from what I can see, there are bloody loads of them on the road. The number of times we're driving down the road and Toby goes, hey, Dad, that car's exactly the same as ours. And it always is. It's a very common car. And it's a, good grief, it's a 2007 one as well. So it's very, very old. Wow, I'm really giving you a lot of information here if you want to stalk me, aren't I? Well, might as well. While I'm here, my PIN number for my card is... no, obviously I'm not going to do that, am I? That is it for the main show this week. Members, don't forget to wait and join me in the post-show. You can head over to fluxo.media if you want to reach out to me on social media or via email, All of the details are on that website. My blog is also on that website, so feel free to read that. I haven't updated it as much as I was hoping because, well, not been able to type properly, but I should be getting back onto that soon. But there are a couple of posts up there. I will see you all next week. So, that's a freebie plus. Hello. Good to see you. If there's any new members there, good to see you too. Not that I can see you. Just realised that sounds... I say this every time, don't I? It just sounds creepy. There's no other way of saying it. Like, it's like, good to see you is just a normal way of greeting people, isn't it? I don't know. When I listen to other podcasts, I don't even know how other people say stuff like that. Anyway, yeah, who cares? Again, say that every single week. I've had a comment on Twitch that is, by the look of it, a spam comment. It says, cheap viewers on streamboo.com. Remove the space. That is probably an advertisement saying, if you go on here, you can buy viewers. I don't want to buy viewers. Why would I want to buy viewers? Who wants to watch me bumble through making a show? It's about the final product, not the made product. I just do it because it's easier. All right, so last time on the post show, I gave you the... Sorry, not the post show. The post show. I gave you the bad movie description of men from a rat-infested city accidentally get sucked into a mouldy city, and they have to defeat a dragon reject to get something that should have been bright enough to blind them. What movie is that? It is, of course, the original Super Mario Brothers. Yeah. It's easy when you hear it, isn't it? Although I imagine that one was pretty easy for most people. This week's is main character meets his significant other's parents only to realise that they're racist and plan to have him replaced. Good God. Yeah, let's see if you can get that one. I've also got a joke this week as well. Two ladies are riding their bicycles around the back streets of Rome. One lady looks over at the other and says, "You know, I have never come this way before." The other lady replies, "Must be the cobblestones." I'd actually forgotten that one. I copied that in there ages ago. I did say I've got another story, didn't I? And I've forgotten what I said it was going to be. Let me have a look through the document. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, man, what did I say it was going to be? Oh, yeah. It's come back. It's come back. So, yeah, I had this business called The Family Nook, and the whole premise was I was selling products that were designed to bring the family together. So games, like craft stuff, like you could buy a set that would be like, you buy this set and you can build this thing and you do it all together, you know, that kind of stuff. There were toys on there, but the toys were always based around educational stuff. I had something called conversation starter cards, where you'd have them at the dinner table, and you know, if you're all sat around for dinner, you could use them to get the conversation flowing. That kind of stuff. The whole point was bring the family together. It was an idea that came from when we were in COVID lockdown, because we were finding that you'd get around the dinner table at night, and it was. Well, basically, because my wife unfortunately had to work all the way through COVID because she looks after children. It was a lot of her just having to tell us about her day because we'd done nothing. We'd attempted to school, but that was it. And it just wasn't fun for her because, you know, you're one of the only people having, well, not one of the only people, but you're having to work while everybody else isn't. In a really demanding job, and it's not fun to have to keep relaying that kind of stuff. So I found the conversation starters online, and I bought a pack, and I was like, actually, these are really good, and they weren't actually sold in the UK by any company. So I got in touch with the people that make them, and I made arrangements to import them and sell them, and they were one of my biggest sellers, actually. I sold every pack of them that I ever had, and that's when I had the idea for things to to keep the family together and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, that doesn't really matter to the story. It started getting to a point though where it was just getting too hard for me to do, because I obviously had a full-time job and I went back to that during after COVID, and it got quite difficult to keep up with marketing it and whatnot. So what I started doing is I scaled back rather than being rather than going overboard with the marketing. I started scaling back and doing like toy fairs and things like that, which was pretty good. It wasn't too bad. But again, I could only make them, well, not as often as I would like, because I had to book time off work to do them. Obviously I needed my holidays for the school holidays and things like that. And it just became difficult. So I was getting to a point where I was a bit fed up of it. And I was like, you know what, I'm probably going to end up stopping it. Because it's not making that much money. It was more of a hobby than anything else. It had the potential to, and it would have required me to just put a lot more work into it that I just couldn't give. And you know what? And I didn't have the experience as well, thinking about it. I think if I had a bit more experience at something like that, I probably could have done a better job at it. Like if I was to go into it again now, maybe it would be a different outcome. I don't know, but I haven't got the money to outlay at this point. But the thing that absolutely sealed the fate for me was, and I may have talked about this on the main show at some point, because I feel like I might have, but I can't remember. But the thing that absolutely sealed the fate is I received a cease and desist email. And it was an email from, excuse me, one of the companies. Oh, give me a second. My doorbell just went. Thank you very much. I'm back. Just put my headphones back in. Won't be a second. Excuse me. It wasn't my glasses, so, you know, don't get excited. I ordered some dumbbells. Toby asked for some dumbbells ages ago, because he wants to start pumping iron. He wants to start working out. So I ordered some dumbbells for him. So they just arrived. Where was I? So I received a cease and desist, and said cease and desist. Blah. Yeah, that's what I talk most of the time. Said cease and desist. Said I can no longer sell a product, or it said you are fraudulently using our product on your website and claiming that you sell it. I'm like, I do. And I'm not fraudulently using it. I'm using the pictures that you sent me. So at first I thought it's probably a scam, this, because it looked like the email was awful. The text was in different colours. The fonts was different sizes. You know, like they tried to highlight the scarier words in it. It really looked like it had been sent out by a scammer. So I just ignored it, because I was like, it doesn't sound right to me. I went to my wholesaler, who I buy the products from. And they were like, yeah, no, we still sell that product. It's not really a big issue. Like you can still go on and buy, I could still go on and order more of it from the wholesaler. They're like, nope, they sell through us. Don't you worry about it. I'm like, okay, fine. So I just assumed it was a scam. Anyway, I got the same email, a week after, and it said, only this time it was the same email, but it said, this is your second warning. There won't be a second warning. The third warning, we will take you to court. So I was like, what the hell? And then I got in touch with the company again that I do the wholesale purchasing through. They said, well, have you replied to it? I was like, you told me it was probably not legit. And so I was like, well, I'll check. And I replied to them. And I got an email back from the company. What I did, I didn't reply to that email. I went through my contact, which is probably what I should have done to start with, to be honest. But hey, you learn, right? I went through my contact that I had with the company, and they said, no, it's a real email. You don't have permission to sell this product. I was like, but I've been selling this product for like 3 years, and I explained the whole thing to them, and they're like, no, we've never given you permission to sell it. I'm like, but I buy it through, and I gave them the name of the wholesaler, and that's where the images come from, and they're marked as promotional images that you can use on your own website. And in fact, this particular product said you have to use their images. You can't use your own images because they only wanted approved images, which a lot of companies did it that way. So I was baffled by it. So anyway, I took the product off sale. I can't even remember what it was now. No, it's gone. I probably wouldn't name it anyway, just for the hell of it. I don't want to start something. Can't even. But yeah, I can't remember what the product was. Anyway, went through all that. Took it off. Oh, I've just remembered what it was. It was a game that I was selling, and it was probably my biggest selling game as well. Yeah, fuck it. It was called Taco versus Burrito, right? The company behind that had decided that for whatever reason I couldn't sell it anymore, and it was annoying. Now, luckily for me, I'd actually sold every copy I had of it, because I'd recently done a fair and I sold for every copy. And in the end, I decided that I was so puzzled by it. I decided to do a bit of research on the company. And I did, and it turned out what had actually happened is the company behind it, they make this game, but they also make toys related to the game as well. And they were making a new product, like a second game that they were going to start selling, and they needed funding for the second game. So what they did is they joined up with Amazon. Amazon basically do like a partnership that you can do where they finance part of your like your research and development, but you have to sign an exclusive contract so that your products are Amazon exclusives, so you only sell through them. And that's what they did. I found photos of the CEO of the company on stage announcing it and talking about the new partnership they got. But instead of just going through regular channels and saying to the current sellers, "Oh, we've signed this exclusive partnership, so we're not able to sell through this wholesaler anymore. We're pulling the products back." They just decided to send cease and desist out to people because they didn't want anybody having old stock left lying around that they're still able to sell. And it damaged a lot of companies. It was very, very shady the way they did it. Even I found like a post from Amazon, but some like a report on it. Apparently, Amazon didn't actually like what they'd done as well. And if Amazon is saying your practices are a bit shady, then there's something wrong there, isn't there? I don't know how it all went in the end, but yeah, it all turned out basically they'd signed a deal with Amazon, and instead of actually just going through the proper channels and telling people, "We've done this, we're no longer going to sell our product through wholesalers," they just cease and desisted everybody. And the whole thing just soured it all for me a little bit. It made me realise that, actually, at any point, any of these companies could do this. And I just completely lost interest at that point. And that's when I fully decided to shut it down. So yeah, the YouTube stuff's still there, but the actual business itself is gone. It's a shame. It was a beautiful website. It took me ages to put it together and come up with the best format for finding stuff on there. Well, I think it was beautiful, you'd have to ask people that went to it. But yeah, such a shame. Anyway, yep, that is everything for this week. I will talk to you all next week on That's a Freebie Plus. Bye.